Hi, my name is Marlene Craft, and I'd like to welcome you to our series called Dear Widow. In this series, we're going to take time to share different things that widows face in this very unusual journey of becoming a widow. I myself was a pastor's wife for 32 years, and I always enjoyed ministering to women and to pastors' wives. And suddenly, one day, my husband died in my arms, and my world became turned upside down. As we travel this journey of grief, no one prepares us for it. I never took the class Grief 101. And so what I want to do is I want to take some time in this first series and let's talk about grief and some of the different challenges that we face in it. It can kind of be like navigating through a desert because there are times of dryness, of loneliness, of struggling to figure out what's going on, and our emotions are everywhere. So I remember right after my husband died, I had no idea what was ahead. And I had no idea of the emotions that I would be going through. So there's a lot of challenges, but each one of us walk a different journey in grief because we all had our unique relationships with our spouses. So don't ever try to compare your journey with anyone else's. Yours is different and unique, and it's special because it's you, and you are important. The Lord loves you, and He cares about all that you're going through right now. But within grief also, there's a lot of similarities. So we're going to be talking about some of the things that you face going through grief. One of them being emotions, insofar as like crying. You've probably discovered that there are times that you will suddenly be hit almost like with a wave of grief, possibly a memory. My husband was very big into chocolate. As a matter of fact, at the viewing of his body, we had bowls of chocolate everywhere because everyone knew that Marlene Craft loved chocolate. I remember he had died in January in 2011, and all the Valentine candy was out. And I remember going down the aisle, seeing all that chocolate, and just suddenly I just burst into tears. Have you found that's the way it is sometimes? When you're least expecting it even, and it will just come over you. But you know what? We are made in the image of God, and God feels things. He is emotional. Jesus Himself, in the Bible, it talks about how Jesus went through the grief when Lazarus died. He cried. He was hurting over it also. So we are made in God's image. So don't feel bad about the tears. Tears is a wonderful way to let that grief come out of you because you don't want to suppress your grief. You want it to give it a chance to come out. And if it comes out in tears, it's okay. For me, it came to the point where, like, if I started crying in the grocery store, I'm like, deal with it, folks. I'm going through something. And so we need to think about ourselves. Too many times I think we as women, we want to be the strong person for everyone else around us. But we have to give ourselves a chance to heal. We need to be able to cry when we need to cry. Another part of grief is you can't rush grief. You can't put it on a schedule. Some people may tell you, oh, it's been 6 months, get over it. They haven't walked through it, have they? Grief is totally unorganized. It will show its head up anytime that it wants. So I encourage you not to push yourself through grief. Grief is a journey. The important part is that you walk through it, that you don't get stuck in it. But continue, even if it's small steps, continue to try things different days. In the beginning, you might have trouble getting out of bed. That's okay. It's small steps. The good news is it gets better as the days go on. Another part of one of the emotions within grieving can be anger. You may be angry at God because your husband's gone. You might be angry at the doctors, or maybe at yourself because I should have done this, I should have done that. Try to stay out of the what ifs. God is a sovereign God. Each and every one of us have got a time that we are going to meet our Creator. For your husband, it was God's time. we still have to deal with the anger that we feel. And that's another thing. You do not want to suppress it. You want to get it out of you in a good way. All right? Because if you try to suppress it, what's going to happen is it's going to come out. But a lot of times it's going to come out in ugly ways, at the wrong time, around the wrong people. So here's a couple things that may help with that. First, if you can, find a trustworthy friend or family member, someone who will just listen to your thoughts and express your thoughts, express your anger. Another way is through journaling. Being able to write down your thoughts and your emotions and all of these things that are going through our mind is proven to be one of the healthiest things you can do in the journey of grief. So I encourage you, get yourself a notebook, something that you can write down each day. I do it in the form of a prayer. When I get up in the morning and I have my quiet time with the Lord, I start out journaling. And first off, I'll talk to the Lord and tell him how much I love him and thank him. And then I go into the things that I'm thinking about and struggling with. But in writing them out, it is another way to be able to release those emotions. So I encourage you to try that sort of thing, because with anger, you've got to get it out. Another suggestion is, if you need to, I had a friend that she would go into the woods and she would holler at the top of her lungs. She would cry out to God. At times she'd cry out to her husband. It was a way for her to release that. If you don't release it, it's going to be kept inside of you. And many times that can lead to some really bad physical complications. So I encourage you to deal with that. So as you've seen, we have looked at some different things. One of my favorite authors in the Bible is David. David is so real, and he faced grief a lot. Looking into Psalms chapter 6, verse 2 says, "Have mercy on me, O God, for I am weak." You can hear him almost just crying out. "O Lord, heal me, for my bones are troubled. My soul is so greatly troubled. But you, O Lord, how long?" Have you cried that to the Lord? Lord, how long is this grief going to last? How long am I going to feel like this? David cries out to God. Return, O Lord, deliver me, save me for your mercy's sake. And then verse 6 says, "I am weary with my groaning. All night I make my bed swim. I drench my couch with my tears. My eye wastes away because of grief. It grows old because of all my enemies." David himself went through grief, but you know what David did? David came to God and he poured out his heart and he cried out to God. And then he stuck around to hear what God was saying back to him. That, my dear widow, is the key. To hear from the Lord. At the very beginning of grief, it may be really hard. You know, it's like some widows are like, "I can't go to church right now." Understand that. "I can't read my Bible right now." God understands. He sees your heart. The important thing is that you come running to him and you just lay it out before him. David cries out to God. We can cry out to God. He knows our heart and he loves us. And he cares about what's ahead for us. In Jeremiah 29, that the Lord reminds us, "For I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord. Plans of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope." Right now, whether you're at the beginning of the grieving process, the middle of it, maybe you're even at the tail end of it. The important thing is that we look to the Lord and that we remember the death of our husband was not a surprise to him. But we are still alive, ladies. The Lord has a future and he has a hope for us. And I think that is exciting. So I am praying for you. And I want to let you know that I care about you. And I look forward to sharing more things in these future tapings. So I pray this was a blessing to you. May the Lord bless you and keep you and give you peace. We'll see you next time.